A few weeks ago, I finished reading The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, and I was curious to read some reviews online. I found that a fair amount of people praised it, but there were also many very negative reviews. So let's have a look at what people had to say and also go through the main ideas from the book. This person says, "Utter rubbish from start to finish. This is the literary equivalent of a Ponzi scheme. The author made loads of money based on fraud. If you have a brain, use it and don't go near this book." Well, I guess you could use the same argument and say that Harry Potter is utter rubbish. A made-up story about wizards and spells could be seen as a fraud that made money. But that's kind of the point. Just because something is made up doesn't make it automatically rubbish. Anyway, moving on. This person picked up the book and read the first 50 pages while waiting in the hospital before skimming the rest and throwing it in the trash. They wrote, "I saw poor writing, misguided ideas, lack of structure and a waste of paper and ink. If I had anything else to read, like the back of a cereal box or the instructions for the medical equipment in the room, I would have tossed it out sooner." Well, this does seem a bit exaggerated, but I think I get their point. And this person says, "Maybe if I sit down and meditate towards this book, I can make it vanish permanently." Another says, "I cannot express in words how much I hated this book. Only retching noises will suffice." Another states, "This is possibly the worst book in print." Someone else writes, "I picked up this little gem at a thrift store, but I threw it away to make sure that other bargain hunters didn't suffer as I did." On the upside, there is something satisfying about the sense of superiority I get from reading an incredibly stupid book. Alright, I think that's enough of the negativity. So I'm not being judgmental, but what's with all these strange reviews? I think the answer lies in the content of the book and how people choose to interpret it. The Celestine Prophecy tells the story of a man who runs into an old friend who tells him more about an old spiritual manuscript from 600 BC, so he decides to board a plane to Peru to find out more. He runs into different people and gradually learns about 9 spiritual insights, seeing first-hand examples of them during his adventures. The structure reminded me a little bit of The Alchemist, a very popular book with somewhat similar themes. There was also a feature film made based on the book, but it has a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's probably not worth your time. The main point and ideas of the book are the 9 spiritual insights that I mentioned before. They are presented in a narrative format to give real-life examples, and they are presented as a parable. So people who attack the writing or the lack of structure would probably be better off reading a conventional novel. Another point I want to make is that you don't have to necessarily agree with all these insights that are presented. That is, you can take them literally, or you can interpret them in your own ways. Nobody is forcing the reader to agree with what the author puts in the book. So the person who called him a fraud wasn't exactly being open-minded. Of course you are entitled to your own opinions, but I think there is a distinction. So let's quickly go over the insights presented in the book, and you can judge for yourself if they have any value. Number 1. Figure out what you are searching for and notice coincidences. We all experience coincidences in our lives, so whether there is a universal force behind them or it's just all random, maybe, just maybe, they actually mean something. Number 2. Think about time from a bigger perspective. Imagine yourself as a speck on a tip of an arrow that represents all of humanity throughout all of time. Suddenly your silly worries seem insignificant and you can become aware of bigger patterns and forces in nature. Number 3. Become more aware of the beauty of the universe around you. Think about the presence and uniqueness of nature. Feel the energy of all living things. Number 4. People often compete with energy with others. This leads to a struggle for power and others feeling depleted. Even if you don't subscribe to this idea of everyone having life energy, I think this still applies to people fighting for attention. Modern politics and social media is definitely full of this. Number 5. We can tap into the energy of the universe, the connected feeling of love. This is a key in eliminating conflict, appreciate beauty to get energy, and experience love to give energy. Number 6. Clear out your past dramas and negativity. From an early age, we learn behaviors and mentalities that could be hurting us. Being too aggressive, being unfocused, being stuck in a victim or blaming mindset. Often we inherit these from our parents and we don't even realize it. Number 7. Love causes high energy while stress causes low energy. Think about your life path and the things that fill you with a feeling of love. Number 8. Be careful of the feeling of love at first sight. Often we can mistake addiction or clinginess for an actual connection, so take the time to get to know people. Be honest with yourself and with others, but don't rush relationships. And number 9. More and more people will eventually wake up to bigger universal truths and vibrate at higher levels. Personally, I think there is some value in these insights. I've chosen to interpret them in my own way, and I don't necessarily have to agree with all of them. People could criticize this idea of a universal energy or people having energy, but I see it as everyone having their own vibe and aura, even personality. I found one review that makes more sense to me than all the negative ones. At first, I saw flaws in the plot and historical information. On the second read, I let go of the fact it was badly written and the characters were bad. It was never intended to be a work of literary wonder, but as an accessible vehicle for ideas. I think it's unfair to criticize it for not being something it was never intended to be. So, ignoring the flaws and reading it for the ideas, I started to enjoy it. Lots of them are too new age, but the notions of peace and calm it puts forward, the ideas of becoming one with nature and looking after one another are all worthwhile. The whole concept of energies can be a bit strange, but we do take energies from our surroundings. This is why some places feel naturally calm. As for passing energies from person to person, it is self-evident. If the reader stops fretting about how bad the writing is and pays attention to what it is trying to say, the book offers some good insights for making you think. Not a great literary work, but that doesn't make it bad. And lastly, here's one simple review that I found on Amazon. I was going through a difficult period in my life, and this series of books helped to turn my life around. This is quite simple, and it pretty much sums up this video. The point of books, and even art in general, I think is to express ideas, make people think, and change their lives in some way, small or big. It's up to us to make our own conclusions from what we see and hear, without dismissing it for trivial reasons. Everyone will have their own opinion, and that's perfectly fine. Thank you very much for watching the video. Let me know, have you read the Celestine Prophecy, and if so, what did you think of it? Please subscribe to support the channel and to see more videos like this. See you next time.